Welcome back, folks. We have a caller on the line. Go ahead, caller.
Rush, I'm real angry about the Patriots changing their name. I mean, what's wrong with being patriotic?
Absolutely nothing wrong with it, caller. But tell me, what do you think about the New England Patriots changing their name?
It's ridiculous, Rush. Patriots are a symbol of America. And besides, if they change their name, what's next? We're gonna rename the White House, too.
You make a good point, caller. And let's not forget about the other teams with names that could be considered offensive. Do you think they should change their names too?
Rush, I don't see why they should. I mean, who cares if a team's named after some Indians? They're not hurting anybody.
You're absolutely right, caller. These politically correct warriors are just trying to find something to be offended about. They're trying to take away our traditions and our heritage. It's an attack on our very way of life.
Exactly, Rush. If the Patriots change their name, I'm never watching football again. It's un-American.
Well, good for you, caller. We need more Americans like you to stand up against this nonsense. And let me tell you, the New England Patriots are not going to change their name. That's a great football team, and they represent everything good about this country.
Thanks, Rush. You're the man.
Always happy to hear from you, caller. Keep fighting the good fight. We'll be right back after these messages.
Last night, on April 20th, former quarterback Robert Griffin III made what some are calling a provocative statement. He called for the New England Patriots to rename their organization because of the negative connotations surrounding patriotism in 2023. Now, a lot of far-right Republicans were outraged. And what's wrong with patriotism? Well, wasn't it these exact patriots who stormed the Capitol building just a few years ago? Griffin took to Twitter on Tuesday to voice his opinion that the team's name should be changed to the New England Revolution. It seems like it would be a more appropriate and inclusive alternative. Now, this is not the first time that the issue of team names and mascots has come up in the recent years. There have been increased scrutiny of the use of Native American names and symbols in sports, with some arguing that they perpetuate harmful stereotypes and disrespect indigenous cultures. But Griffin's call for the renaming of the Patriots is a different kind of argument, one that challenges the very notion of patriotism itself. He is suggesting that the team's name is inherently nationalist and exclusionary, and that it sends a message that only those who support the New England Patriots are truly patriotic. It's a provocative statement, and one that is sure to generate a lot of debate, and earned a spot on our show. But as we continue to grapple with issues of identity and representation in sports, it's a conversation that we need to have. And it's one that we'll be following closely here on the Rachel Maddow Show. Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. Tonight we're talking about a former quarterback, Robert Griffin III, who's calling for the New England Patriots to change their name. Why? Because according to Griffin, the name echoes sentiments of nationalism. Now let's just break this down for a minute. What's wrong with nationalism? Is there something wrong inherently with loving your country and wanting to see it prosper? Of course not. But to the left, anything that smacks of national pride is automatically suspect. They think it's oppressive, exclusionary, and racist. And that's why Griffin's call for the Patriots to change their name is so ridiculous. I mean, the Patriots are a symbol of American excellence, of the men and women who have fought and died to protect our freedoms. And yet, according to Griffin and the left, that's somehow a bad thing. But it's not just the name the Patriots that's under attack. No. The left wants to erase all traces of American history and culture. They want to tear down our statues, rename our buildings, and erase our past. Why? Because they think it's offensive. They think it's oppressive. And they think they know better than the rest of us. Well, let me tell you something, folks. This is a dangerous trend. Because when we start erasing our history, our traditions, we lose our identity as a nation. And that's exactly what the left wants. They want to fundamentally transform America into something unrecognizable, some woke country. So let's celebrate our history and our traditions and stand up for our country and to our values. And let's stand down to Robert Griffin III, who's fighting for this politically correct, woke America. That's all the time we have for tonight. Thank you. Welcome everybody on this wonderful Friday. I'm Colin Cowherd, speaking from the beautiful Los Angeles, California, and this is The Herd. Today we're talking about Robert Griffin III's recent comments about the New England Patriots name being too patriotic. Now, as a sports analyst, it's not my place to take a side on this issue, but I do have some unique insight on how this would affect the world of sports. You see, sports teams are like families. They have their own unique history, traditions, and identities that are passed down from generation to generation. And just like families, sports teams have their own stories and legends that are celebrated and remembered by its fans. Changing the name of the Patriots would be like changing the name of a family. It would require a major adjustment and could potentially upset the team's fan base. On the other hand, it could also be an opportunity to create a new identity and establish a new legacy for the team. But let's not forget that the name of a sports team is just one small part of what makes a team successful. What really matters is the talent of the players, the skill of the coaches, and the support of the fans. I mean, these are the things that bring a team together and make them successful on or off the field. So while changing the name of the Patriots may have some impact on the team and its fans, it's important to remember that it's not the name that makes a team great. It's the people behind it. Folks, let's not get too caught up in the name game. Instead, let's focus on what really matters in sports. The hard work, dedication, and passion of the players, coaches, and fans. Next, how the Lakers can bounce back against the jawless Grizzlies. It's always fascinating to see how the right wing responds to any proposal that threatens their sense of nationalism. Recently, former NFL quarterback Robert Griffin III suggested that the New England Patriots change their name because it echoes sentiments of nationalism. Naturally, this suggestion did not sit well with certain conservatives, who cling on to their nationalism as if it's the only thing that defines them. Now, before the usual suspects start shouting about cancel culture and how we're all just snowflakes who can't handle a little bit of nationalism, let's have a little reality check. The truth is that symbols matter, and the name of a football team is not immune to that fact. I mean, this isn't about cancel culture. It's about acknowledging the real-world implications of the symbolism we choose to celebrate. I mean, we've seen the harm that comes from appropriating Native American symbols and culture for entertainment purposes. So why are we so hesitant to acknowledge the harm that comes from celebrating nationalism in the same way? I mean, it's hypocritical to claim that we should respect one group's symbols and culture while ignoring the damage done to another. And let's be real. This is not about patriotism. This is about a sense of entitlement to a particular brand of nationalism, one that often excludes those who don't fit into the narrow mold of what it means to be an American. It's time to acknowledge that this kind of nationalism only serves to divide us further, and we need to move beyond it. So to those who are outraged at the mere suggestion of changing the name of the New England Patriots, take a step back and think about why this matters so much to you. The truth is that this is just one small step towards building a more inclusive and welcoming society for all of us. Now, as you may have heard, Robert Griffin III, who's a former quarterback, came out saying that the New England Patriots need to rename their team because, this is a quote, "Patriotism is only one step away from nationalism." Give me a break. At first they came for our movies, then they came for our music. And now the left wants to wokeify sports. Now, let's just break this down logically. I mean, the New England Patriots are named after the patriots who fought for our freedom in the Revolutionary War. There is no reference to nationalism there. But even if there were, what's so bad about nationalism? If nationalism means loving your country more than other countries, well, then I'm a proud nationalist. But of course, the left doesn't care about these facts. No, they care about feelings. And apparently, RG3's feelings were hurt by the name of a football team. Boo-hoo. Maybe RG3 should get some thicker skin. And a quick note on RG3. He's not even a great quarterback. I don't know how he spiraled that joke of a career into a media gig. The left just can't handle the fact that America is a great country and one with a proud history. They want me to be ashamed that I am a proud American. Well, that's never going to happen. And to RG3, and I want to speak to him directly. Stick to football. Leave the politics to the adults in the room. Stop trying to cancel the Patriots and cancel the NFL. Because we need to focus on the real issues facing this country. I mean, the crisis at the border, our collapsing economy, the woke left corruption of our youth. I mean, those are the problems facing this country, not the New England Patriots. Now, our main story tonight concerns the names of our most beloved sports teams. And no, we are not talking about the Modesto Nuts or the Thailand Tobacco Monopoly Football Club. No, today we're talking about the New England Patriots. Because as you may have seen, former quarterback turned media member Robert Griffin III was quoted saying, "That name has to be changed. Patriots, way too close to nationalists." Now this is interesting, because for once, we have a controversy involving the Patriots that is not directly tied to Tom Brady. Mazel tov, Tom. Now, some people might say, oh, it's just a name, who cares? But let me tell you, names matter. They reflect values and shape perceptions both within and outside of a team's fan base. The term patriotism has been used by extremist groups to promote xenophobic and racial ideologies, and we can't ignore the harm that has caused. Moreover, the team's name is rooted in a violent history of colonialism and imperialism. It's time to acknowledge that this is not something to celebrate. Rather, it is something to learn from and move on. Changing the name would be only a small step towards recognizing and respecting the diversity within our country. So to those who argue that we shouldn't change the name because it's part of the team's history and tradition, well, let me say this. Traditions can and should evolve. I mean, the world is changing, and so must we. And as for the cost of changing the name, it's a small price to pay for progress and inclusivity. Thank you. Good evening. Tonight we're discussing the recent statement by former NFL quarterback Robert Griffin III, calling for the New England Patriots football team to change their name because, and this part's a quote, it echoes sentiments of nationalism. Griffin's statement raises important questions about the role of symbols and language in our society. While there is certainly nothing inherently wrong with being proud of one's country and its accomplishments, it's important to examine whether symbols like the Patriots name have been co-opted by certain groups for exclusionary purposes. At the same time, we must acknowledge the complexities of this issue. The Patriots name has been associated with this franchise for decades, and it carries with it a deep history and meaning for fans and players alike. Any decision to change it would need to be thoughtfully considered, with input from a wide variety of stakeholders. Furthermore, it's important to recognize that the debate around team names and symbols is not limited to the New England Patriots. In recent years, there has been increased scrutiny of the use of Native American names and symbols in sports, with some arguing that they perpetuate harmful stereotypes and disrespect indigenous cultures. Now, some have used this situation as an opportunity to attack Robert Griffin III and direct racial dog whistles at their audience. Some of our competing broadcasts have partaken in this very behavior. Ultimately, the question of whether to change the Patriots' name is one that will require thoughtful consideration and dialogue. It's a reminder that our symbols and language matter, and that we must work to ensure that they reflect the inclusive and diverse society that we all strive to be. Thank you for joining us on Anderson Cooper 360. Look, unlike my partner here, I hold a great respect for the Patriots' history. What Tom Brady, Bob Kraft, and Bill Belichick did together, well, I've never seen anything quite like it. But Shannon, I need to put my foot down and say, this team cannot continue as the Patriots. I might as well call them the New England Insurrectionists. And calling yourself a patriot, it's fine, it is. But it's a small step from patriot to nationalist, and an even smaller one to ethnocentrist. And one more thing. Shannon, what Tom Brady and this New England football team has done for the past 2 decades, well, it's oddly reminiscent of what the Europeans did to those Native Americans in the 1600s. I mean, it was domination. They were exercising their will. I mean, they beat the Chiefs in Arrowhead, for God's sake. It's not good.
Thank you, Skip, for saying all that. It's a really complicated issue, and I want to treat it as such. Here's the thing, Skip. How many teams could you label as problematic? Washington, okay, I'll give you. But the Buccaneers are no good swashbuckling pirates. The Raiders are thieves. The Saints are propagating the bull jive of the Catholic Church. The Steelers are a constant reminder of 19th century monopolism. The Eagles are basically the same thing as the Patriots. The Vikings raped and pillaged. The Browns? Need I say more? There's not a more racist name in the league than the Texans. And the Cowboys are the same. 49ers, they echo the forced labor amidst the gold rush. And the Jets are fine. But do they need to play in New York City, Skip? This is what I've been saying, Skip. There isn't a team in the league that you wouldn't want renamed to the Democrats or the Snowflakes or the Universal Basic Incomes. It's a joke.
back in New York tonight. Welcome to Larry King Live, folks. Today we're discussing the recent statement made by Robert Griffin III about the New England Patriots name being too patriotic. And as a long-time broadcaster, I've seen my fair share of controversial issues. But this one seems to be a bit of a gray area. On one hand, the Patriots name does have strong associations with American patriotism, which can be a sensitive subject for some people. But on the other hand, the team has had this name for almost 60 years, and it's become part of their identity and brand, in my opinion. The real question here is whether or not this issue is worth the time and energy it's generating. With all the pressing issues facing our country and the world, is this really something we should be focusing on? That being said, it's important to acknowledge that symbols and language do have power, and they can evoke different emotions and reactions in different people. If the name of the Patriots is causing genuine harm or offense to certain individuals or communities, then perhaps it is worth having a conversation about changing it. Ultimately, I think this is a decision that should be left up to the team and its fans. If the majority of the team's stakeholders believe that changing the name is necessary or appropriate, then they should pursue that course of action. If not, then they should continue to stand by their current identity and focus on what they do best, playing football. As always, thank you for tuning in, folks. Stay curious and stay informed. Welcome to Gutfeld. I'm Greg Gutfeld, and I've got to tell you, the idea of changing the New England Patriots name because it's too patriotic is absurd. I mean, what are we supposed to rename them? The New England Redcoats? This is just another example of the left's attempts to destroy everything that makes America great. I've got to hand it to Robert Griffin III, though. I mean, he's a master of the woke game. And if you can't beat them on the field, just try to cancel them off the field. And who cares about actually winning games when you can score points with the woke crowd by trying to change the name of the team? It's just pathetic. But seriously, folks, where does it end? Are we going to rename the Washington Monument because it's too patriotic? Are we going to tear down Mount Rushmore because it's offensive to those who don't like old white guys? This is just the latest example of the left's attempt to erase our history and our culture. I mean, if we start changing the names of football teams just because they're too patriotic, are we going to start banning the American flag because it's too offensive to the left? It's ridiculous. And look, I'm all for progress and inclusivity, but this is just going too far. We can't just erase our history and our culture because it's offensive to some people. We need to embrace our past, and we need to learn from it, not try to get rid of it for some woke narrative. Folks, let's not try to bend to the woke crowd and destroy everything that makes our country amazing. Now, let's stand up for our culture and our traditions, and let's not let them be erased by a bunch of cringe-worthy joke artists who think they know better than the rest of us. That's all for me. Stay classy.